My guest tonight is a college football legend and proof that hard work and the right attitude can overcome any challenge. Since his time as an undersized linebacker at Kent State, Lou Holtz has defied expectations by coaching 6 different college programs to bowl games, accumulating more than 240 victories and leading the Fighting Irish of Notre Dame to a national championship. But before he was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame, did you know he coached his first football team when he was 18 years old, was taught by the Sisters of Notre Dame before ever setting foot in South Bend, and was an assistant coach under Woody Hayes? Tonight, we'll learn what makes this undeniable icon who he is. A man who once said, life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it. Please welcome the one and only Lou Holtz.
Hey, John. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, my goodness.
Right out of the gate, a standing ovation.
I didn't know we had that many Notre Dame fans here in Los Angeles.
Do we have any Notre Dame fans?
Yeah.
Just getting to know your story, doing the research for this interview, you know, here you sit as an 80-year-old man.
Well, we didn't need to go there.
Well, yeah. I think that's a pat on the back. I mean, nobody would ever guess that. You've stayed young at heart, and where your story starts, born in 1937 in Folensby, West Virginia, a lot of people that have sat in that chair said, you know, we didn't have much, but back then I didn't know we didn't have much. It was just life.
Well, I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth. I really was. I was born during the Depression. My dad had a third-grade education. We had one bedroom for my sister, myself, and my parents. We had a kitchen. We had a half bath. The half bath did not have a tub, a shower, or sink. There was no welfare. There was no food stamps. There was no safety net. The reason I was born with a silver spoon in my mouth, I was born in this country. And I was taught that if I made good choices, whatever happened in your life, if I made good choices, got an education, worked hard, didn't blame other people, that I could have very positive things happen to me. I was not unwanted, I was not unexpected, and I was not unloved. It isn't what you have, it's what you're taught about the values of life.
Your dad was many things, one of them a bus driver. And I wonder, as you look back, you know, this resolve that you have, was that instilled by him, you think?
I think the resolve came, I think I was about 5, and they needed students to fill up the first grade. They got out the baptismal certificates, went to my mom, said, do you mind if Lou starts to school early? I'm the last child home. Oh, that's great. Well, I was younger than everybody else. It hurt me athletically. It hurt me socially. I never had a date. Because of that, people picked on you. You're smaller. You're weaker. I had a very bad lisp, which I still do to this day. But you learn to handle that. You learn to have a sense of humor among things, and you move on. Then you find out not everybody likes you. And you aren't the biggest. You aren't the fastest. You aren't the strongest. But I think all the adversity that I had growing up, you have 2 choices. Either you give up or you make up your mind you're going to make the most out of it.
You were surrounded, obviously, though, by a lot of love. And
Yes.
tell me about your mother, because I think people would say Lou Holtz had a strong father, Andrew, and obviously a hardworking man. But tell me about your mom.
My mother was valedictorian of her high school class. She was very smart. And that's why she was a little disappointed where, you know, I was in the lower third of my high school class. If it was not for people like me, there could have been no upper half of class. So
Correct.
I was just on the bottom. But
yeah, it's all in how you look at it. You were in the half of the class that made the upper half possible.
That's it. It wasn't for me. They could have not have had the upper half. But it just, my mother was a loving person. She was one that always saw a catastrophe before it ever happened. You know, she always was sort of negative about things. But the real person in my life was my Uncle Lou.
He was your uncle.
Yes.
But he was only how many years older?
10 years older than me, but took me under his wing, became the closest person in my life. I'm talking about, he was a brother, he was a father, he was a friend.
He is the one, right or wrong, that started your love for sports.
Absolutely. He was the one, he played football. We'd go watch him. He was a very, very good football player, and that's where it all started.
The first time you played football was in 5th grade?
5th grade. My Uncle Lou was a coach. When he got out of service, he coached St. Aloysius, 7th and 8th grade team. He let me play on the team when I was in the 5th grade. He put me in the game. We're playing Immaculate Conception out of Wellsville. And a guy came through, and I was safety, and he's going to make a touchdown if I didn't tackle him. And I dropped my head, and I missed him intentionally. And I came to the sideline. Now, we won the game. Obviously, we're way ahead, or I wouldn't have been in the game. And I saw my uncle, and I said my helmet filled my eyes, which was wrong. But I tell you what I learned then? The mental pain was much more painful than the physical pain I would have had if I tackled a young man. It was a great lesson I learned that the physical pain will go away. The mental pain of that, to this day, the disappointment of my Uncle Lou, that I intentionally turned a guy down. Never did it again. It changed my whole attitude about the game of football.
Now, I understand Notre Dame was rolling back then, but they were the team that you were falling in love with as a little boy.
Well, my grandpa, my Uncle Lou, all loved Notre Dame. They went in the late 40s. From 46 through 49, Notre Dame never lost a football game. And so I went to St. Aloysius. I was taught by the Sisters of Notre Dame. We marched out every day at noon, recess, and dismissal to the Notre Dame Victory March. I mean, 3 times a day. We would pray for Notre Dame on Friday before a ball game. And you just grew up thinking, boy, that was just the very, very special place.
And at that time, even though you're young, you're studying the playbook, right? You knew what everybody was supposed to be doing out on the field.
Yeah, I guess everybody said I did that. I know my high school coach felt that he liked me in the game because I could tell everybody what to do. I mean, we didn't have the brightest class in the world, so when I'm in the lower third, it wasn't a particularly smart class, I might add. Right. We had great football in East Liverpool. The whole city turned out. It came easy to me. But, I mean, how difficult can it be?
What are you probably going to become? What was the career in East Liverpool?
I never had any goals growing up. Nobody from our family had ever gone to college. I had no desire. In the 2nd grade, the nuns asked everybody, what do you want to be? I want to be a fireman, a doctor, a lawyer. I wanted to be a garbage collector. Honest to God. I said, they only work on Tuesdays.
Right.
Good deal. Work one day. Well, it doesn't get any better than that. But that was my mentality and the way I thought then. At the end of my junior year, my high school coach came up and told my parents I should go to college and be a coach. In addition to playing, I'd saved money when working to buy a 49 Chevrolet. My parents decided I was going to college. I said I wasn't going to college. They said, you are, so we compromised, and I went. That was a typical compromise.
Right.
But the thing that really changed it was I was at the neighborhood grocery store, and they had the big stack. And I'm on one aisle, and I heard Linda Hobeck and Frida Toft, 2 neighbors, talking. And they said, isn't it a shame the Holtz are going to waste what little money they have to send that kid to college? And it motivated me. I went to college. I made up my mind I was going to prove that I could do the work for 1 year. Then I was leaving. I was coming back and getting a job in the steel mill. So that's all I want. So I put in the year in college. I come back. I get a job in the steel mill. Labored in the open earth. Worked 1 week. Got out a calendar. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I wasn't going to do the rest of my life. And I wanted to go work in the steel mill. And then I went back and then went out for the football team at Kent State.
And made it.
Yeah,
and you were part of it. Tell me about Lou Holtz, the football player at Kent State.
I had a lot of friends on the team, and I wasn't a very good football player, but I think that they respected me because I practiced hard. I was very positive. I was good in the locker room, etc. And just being in that locker room and listening to the coach and being on the sideline and being on the field or being in the bench, whatever, I know what the other third teamer is feeling like when I'm at Notre Dame or Arkansas or somewhere. You have empathy. You know what it's like to have pain and to do everything you could, and it's still not really appreciated by coaches. All these things that add up into how you're going to be as a coach. See, I think the two most important days in your life, one is the day you're born. And the other important day in your life is the day you discover why you were born. And somewhere along the line, I discovered that I was born to be a coach, but also I think that when we really look at why was I born, is to end up helping other people.
When does that hit you that I'm different than the other guys in this locker room and people will listen to me and I know how to lead people?
I had an assistant coach at Kent State named Rick Verzano, great human being, and Frank Spouse, those two coaches. They believed in me, and they could see that I was going to be a coach when I was a sophomore, junior. I really didn't know that where I was going to be. But it just, people along the line have taken an interest in me and helped me and guided me.
And you get after this coaching thing. You get after learning what it takes to be a successful leader. And I mean, this assistant trail that you go on is really remarkable. What are your goals when you get into coaching?
I always wanted to be the head coach at Notre Dame Fighting Irish, but I didn't think I ever would, because until they hired Eric Parsegian, they had never hired a non-alum at Notre Dame. And so I just think they're always going to hire alums. Once they hired Eric, who was not a Notre Dame alum, then I wanted to go, but I really didn't think I would ever end up there. I didn't think it, for whatever reason, you hoped that you could.
But at some point during your early years, you make a goal sheet out with 107 goals.
Well, what happened is I go to South Carolina under a guy named Marvin Bass. My wife's 8 months pregnant with our third child. We spent every cent we had in the bank for a down payment on home. I'm there 1 month. I get up on the Monday morning, the headline of the paper reads, Marvin Bass resigns. I said to my wife, I wonder if he related to my coach. An hour later, I'm unemployed. After my wife gives birth to Kevin, she went to work as an X-ray technician. I'm a stay-at-home dad. And feeling defeated, you know, and here it is.
Did you think coaching was over for you?
Well, yeah, probably, because it was March. Nobody's going to hire you in March. This was in spring. And so I'm really feeling down. And she bought me this book, a paperback. It's The Magic of Thinking Big. And one day, true story, when the children were taking a nap, I got a paper and pencil and did what the book asked me to do, made 5 columns. Things I wanted to accomplish as a husband and a father. Column number 2 was things I wanted to accomplish religiously. God's important in my life, but I don't preach it. I don't lecture it. I hope the way I live my life reflects it. Column number 3 was things I wanted to accomplish financially. Column number 4 was things I wanted to do professionally. I wanted to be a head coach. I wanted to coach Notre Dame, win a national championship, be in Hall of Fame. And the last column was things I wanted to do for excitement. I wanted to go on the submarine, wanted to be on Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, wanted to go whitewater rafting on Snake River, wanted to go to Pompolona and run with the bulls with a slower person. And the truth, I had 107 of them. My wife come home, I said, honey, here's 107 of them. We're going to do them all. She said, gee, that's great. She said, why don't we get a job? So we made it 108. We have done 102 of those. I've done everything I mentioned except run with the bulls, and my youngest son has done that. But don't go through life and be a spectator. Remember the word win. What's important now? Ask yourself, that's what I want to do. What's important now? Evaluate the past, focus on the future, tell you what you have to do in the present.
My dad went to Ohio State. My dad called Woody Hayes a friend of his, and you end up on his staff. What was it like coaching with the legendary Woody Hayes? It
was a great experience. He probably did more to formulate my philosophy than anybody else. But the thing about Woody Hayes, 2 things. Number 1, he believed in fundamentals, and blocking and tackling is critical. The other thing, that if you're in a leadership role, your obligation is make people the very best that they can possibly be. Not everybody can be All-American, not everybody be first team. Everybody can be the very best they're capable of being. And your job in leadership role is not to be their friend. If you want a friend, Woody Hayes, you say go buy a dog. But the most important thing you have to get across to them that when you join a team, you join the military, you join a company, you join a spouse, you bring a child in the world, you have obligation, you have responsibilities. And you want to fail. You have the right to fail. You do not have the right to cause other people to fail because you don't fulfill your obligation. That was the one thing I learned from him. I carried with me to this day. You don't have the right to cause other people to fail. One other thing. I'm an old man. My birthday candles cost more than a cake. I understand that. But people say, what's the difference between athletes today and 40 years ago? Today, everybody wants to talk about their rights and their privileges. 40 years ago, we talked about our obligations and our responsibilities. And I believe that we still need to get back to the obligation, responsibility you have to other people. Just simple.
In 1969, you become head coach at William & Mary. While you were there, you developed 3 rules to coach by.
Yeah, do what's right, do the best you can, show people you care. And you follow those 3 rules, I guarantee you're going to build a trust, you're going to build a commitment, you'll build a genuine caring of it. And, of course, we developed those 3 rules as we went along. But, you know, we complicate life. You realize there are only 7 colors of the rainbow? Look what Michelangelo did. There's only 7 musical notes. Look what Beethoven did. There's only 10 numbers. Look what Bernie Madoff did with those 10 numbers. It might mean it's always good, but we don't need to complicate life.
But you end up taking them to a bowl.
We turned the program around. So North Carolina State writes me. Earl Edwards had retired. They had an interim coach. They wanted to know if I'd be interested in talking to them about the job. I said, I'd love to when the season's over. So now the last Monday at William & Mary, quarterback club gives me a new car. I said, I can't take that car. There's no way in this. It's not to keep you here. It's what you did for William. I said, no, I will not take it. So I come home after the last game. The next day I'm going to NC State to become the head coach. I come home, my wife said, you won't believe what happened today. At halftime, they called me out of the stands and gave me a new car. I said, we can't keep it. She said, they gave it to me, and I am keeping it. And she said, beside our old car, we'll get to Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm so embarrassed. We leave with their car to go coach NC State. So that's how I ended up at NC State.
You had a great run at NC State with the bowl games.
Yeah.
Really, every program you took over needed resuscitation. And Lou was there with the paddles.
Well, it was like Urban Meyer. He wants to be the head coach of Bowling Green. And he said to me, can you help me? I said, yeah. I know Mike Wilcox, the chairman of the board, and Bob Sebo. I played high school football. Let me call him. So Urban calls me 2 weeks later and said, Bowling Green offered me the job, but I'm going to turn it down. I said, that's interesting. Why is that? He said, it's not a good job. I said, no, it's not. If it was a good job, the other guys still be there. Good jobs don't open up. Bad jobs open up. And if it was a good job, why would they hire you? But so when you say you always went to a losing team, well, those are the kind of jobs that open up. The good jobs are going to stay there. So it's only natural you're going to end up taking over a program that needs resuscitation.
But as your career goes forward, you get an opportunity to coach the New York Jets in the NFL in 1976.
Mm-hmm.
Why'd you jump to the NFL, and what was that experience like for you?
Well, I turned the job down 3 different times. And Al Ward was the general manager, and he said to me, you need to come to New York and tell Mr. Phil Island and Leon Hess, tell the 2 owners you don't want to coach a Jet. You owe it to them. So I went up to New York. I called my wife at night. She said, you did what? I said, I'm the head coach of the Jets. She said, you went there to turn it down. I said, well, let's see what happens.
Well, what did they say? How did they get you from I'm going to turn it down to yes, I'll take the job?
You're in New York, you're at a French restaurant, and you think, Broadway Joe Namath, my quarterback.
Right.
And you just say, oh, man, this is going to be... But I went there without a vision, without a plan. But I didn't put together the proper staff. I didn't understand professional football. The one thing that I learned is in college, you control every single facet of the program. In the pros, the locker room belongs to the players. What I should have done was go to Joe Namath, Jerome Barcombe, and say, you won the Super Bowl, and now we have one of the worst teams in the league. What's the difference in the locker room? That would have told you volumes about what you need to do in the manager. I could have learned so much more from the players, having never been in the NFL before. It just is something that I wish that I would have succeeded. I wished I would have followed up on. But, you know, that's part of life. That's a chapter of my life. I learned from it, benefited from it, moved on.
So Frank Broyles hires you at Arkansas. The success followed. You guys went 10-1 right out of the chute.
Yeah, we went 10-1. We lost to Texas and Earl Campbell in the last minute of play. But then we go to a bowl game. We're going to play Oklahoma in the Orange Bowl.
I want to set this up. You're going to play in the Orange Bowl against Oklahoma, a favored Oklahoma team. And 3 of your top players get in trouble before the game.
Well, the 3 scored 78% of our touchdowns the entire year. So I would think they were pretty instrumental in our success.
Okay. I've read where you said they broke your do the right thing rule.
Well, they broke it big time.
Okay.
They broke the do right rule.
Okay, so now you are without your 3 best players or most instrumental offensive players.
They're great players.
The press goes crazy about this, right?
Oh, yeah, because I wouldn't say what they did. I just say violated do right rule and they aren't going to play. And we got obscene phone calls because the last time Arkansas played Oklahoma, Oklahoma beat them 108-0. And so all of a sudden it was a big deal. And I tell the athletes they aren't going to play, and I tell our team they aren't going to play, and the team did not receive it particularly well. And so it looked like we were going to have a boycott, but that didn't materialize.
Yeah, that's a big thing, though, where you're feeling pressure. The press, I'm sure you could kind of take or leave. But there's pressure from the school to win. I mean, you're taking on Oklahoma. There's pressure from your team.
A lawyer gets involved and tells the athletes, I can get an injunction and get you to play in the game. So they take me to court. The Attorney General for Arkansas calls me.
Who goes by the name of?
Bill Clinton. Later President Clinton. That's how I ended up sleeping in the Lincoln bedroom because of him. But he calls and says, because you're a state employee, I can represent you. And we talked every night on the phone. I would get mad. I'd scream. I'd holler. He'd calm me down. But he did a great job. We won the case. They would not be allowed to play. And I've never been in a situation where you felt like the whole world was against you. And I even told my wife, I said, you know, this may cost me my job. It may cost me the coaching profession, but we're going to stand for what we truly believe.
So you had to rely, at least at running back, on a backup, Roland Sales.
Yes. 3 days before the game, I had a team in disarray. We became the largest underdog there's ever been in the bowl. And this is when the Orange Bowl was the last game of the year. And I said, I know why we can't win, because I pick up the paper and I read about the great players from Oklahoma going to play. And in that same paper, I read about the great players from Arkansas that are not going to play. So I know why we can't win. I've never read one positive comment about anybody in this room, just who isn't going to play. Tell me why we can. For a while, nobody said anything. A player got up and said, we have the #1 defense in the country, which we did. He said, we are going to get beaten here as bad as everybody thinks. Well, wasn't what I wanted, but it was a step in the right direction. And then they
That's not exactly win one for the Gipper.
No, we pointed out we had a great competitor quarterback, had a great offensive line, had a great punter play. The more they talked, when they left the room, it was a different team because they looked at why we could do something. Instead, listen to everybody tell us why we couldn't win.
Here's what happened.
Cal Cagney hands the ball off, and there goes Sales. Sales to the 10, to the 5, and down to the 3 goes Roland Sales. Cal Cagney carries it, touchdown.
So, how vindicating was that win for you? Because yet again, this is an example of you doing the right thing. You stood for what you believed in, and you won, and you beat a heavily favored team. How vindicating.
Changed my life completely. We come back from the bowl game. IBM and General Motors calls me. We want you to come speak to our people. About what? I had one speech class in my life. That was Kent State 101. Speech 101, I got a C, I got a list. Come tell about what you did to turn it around at the Orange Bowl. So I go speak for IBM. All of a sudden, IBM explodes. People are in the audience and now running Kroger's. Would you come speak? That's how the speaking started. And just from that bowl game up until then, nobody wanted to hear me speak. But that changed my life in every way.
After all the success at Arkansas, were you surprised it came to an end the way it did?
Yeah, I really was. I was shocked. You know, we'd been there 7 years, had 7 bowl bids, 4 top 10 finishes, had the best one-loss record in the history of Arkansas, the second best one-loss record in the history of the Southwest Conference, only to Dare Royal, and came home from church and got a call, and Frank Burrow said, I want your resignation. And I said, why? He said, it's the best interest of the program, would not give me a reason. I was so mad, I was so bitter, that I was going to the media. I knew where all the bodies were buried. I could really get them. And my wife said, no, we know what we did. We'll move on. You don't get ahead of anybody by getting even with them. So I never talked to the media, never once. And I just moved on. But it was difficult, but my attitude was, they'll prove them wrong.
So you do the right thing. You don't go to the press. You don't make it personal. You just move along. You go to Minnesota, and it's at Minnesota that you make a deal in your contract, the Notre Dame clause.
Yes.
And this is interesting. I guess, in essence, it had 2 parts. If you took them to a bowl,
that's it.
And if the Notre Dame job came open,
yes,
you could leave.
They had to contact me. And here's the deal. Why did I think Notre Dame might hire me? Gene Corrigan was the new athletic director at Notre Dame. He was at Virginia. He tried to hire me 3 different times. And my feeling was if we turned Minnesota around, and he tried to hire me before, why would he not think I was the best job? And so the only fair thing was Minnesota had to accept a bowl bid first. The logic being if I took a program here, we took it up here and went to a bowl game, that means that we're pretty good. Then you get somebody else to take it the rest of the way. But if we didn't accept a bowl bid, I was not free to go. We played Iowa our last game of the year and get the bowl bid. I said to Paul Gill, you know, what happens? He said, I think it's more important to the program. Following Monday, Notre Dame calls me about being the head coach. The Monday after we accept a bowl bid.
You grew up as a child around a radio listening to Notre Dame football. I can't imagine for a young boy in your home listening to those games, marching out to recess to the Notre Dame song, the fight song, what it was like as the head football coach at Notre Dame.
When they called me, they said to me, before you accept a job at Notre Dame, I want you to understand there are certain things at Notre Dame are not negotiable. Don't think you're going to come to Notre Dame and change them. Understand this is Notre Dame. We don't take red shirts. We don't take transfers. We don't have an athletic dorm or training table. We're going to play the most difficult schedule we can find. We expect to win. We have high academic standards. We aren't going to lower them. And he said, we don't have good football facilities. We don't want to improve because we don't want somebody to come here because of our weight room. We want them to come because of our chemistry department. These things are not negotiable. And the other thing, we have a policy the head football coach at Notre Dame is not allowed to make more than the president of Notre Dame. And the president of Notre Dame is a priest that took the vow of poverty. That's not negotiable. So when you go there, you aren't going to go say, we need a new weight room. No, that is not negotiable. And you go there, but you understand. And I never looked and said, wow, I'm at Notre Dame. What I felt was important. You understand that the other coach had just gotten fired. And I didn't want that on my record at Notre Dame. So I was worried about winning. I wasn't worried about, wow, this is the achievement. I'm the head coach at Notre Dame. No, getting there is nice, but getting successful there is more important. But the fact is, it's a responsibility that you have to build Notre Dame The football team should reflect the values of Notre Dame University. We ought to play intelligently. We ought to play together. We ought to play a sport, but we ought to play with a great commitment to excellence.
So this team that you took over after '85 was down. How did you change the culture when you got to Notre Dame?
First of all, we had talent at Notre Dame my first year, but they didn't know how to win or didn't expect to win. But we had good talent there. It wasn't that we're losing because of lack of talent. Two things you do. You give people something they can do and demand they do it. That's number one. I may not expect you to reach out and block an All-American defensive tackle when we run outside. Hey, you can't do that. But you can block down on a man. He may be great, but you can block down. I'm going to give you an angle on it, and doggone it, I expect that to be done. So I'm going to give you something to do. I'm going to demand that you do it to the best of your ability. And the only other thing that convinced, we rely on one another. It all comes down to teamwork.
You took the names off the back of the players' jerseys.
Well, they have ND on it. There's nothing more important. You got Notre Dame on it. Why do we need your name?
Don't yell at me. Don't yell at me.
This game isn't about you. It's about us. It's about us as a team. And we represent the University of Notre Dame, not you. If you want your name on it, then you go to that school that's losing. It's just like we would... It's like we would run the stadium steps and the players complain, these steps too big. We'll go to a smaller school. You come to the big time, you're going to have big time steps. That's all part of it.
I'm anxious to ask you about you being a smaller guy standing up in front of these big behemoth men with the lisp thinking, how am I going to get them to follow me? Does that make sense? Is that a fair question?
Oh, yeah, it's a fair question. I think the players were always scared of me. I have no, because I was so intense. But this was important. Usually, when you take over a job and you go in and meet the team for the first time, you usually say to them, I know you had no choice in who was going to be the head coach. Nobody allowed you to vote, and if you did, you would not have picked me. I understand that because you hear I'm a disciplinarian. I've never disciplined anybody in my life. But you would have never picked me. I understand that. But I want you to understand one thing. I had a choice. I had a good job. I didn't need to move my family. But I came here because I thought if we worked together, we could really do some special things. So I had a choice. I know you did. But I hope you always remember, I wanted to be with you. I hope you want to be with me. You move on from there.
Man. So he can obviously win a crowd over here. But before his first game against the Michigan Wolverines, here is Lou Holtz's pregame speech to his players.
We said we were going to bring respect. Don't talk about it. Only one way you get respect, and that's by looking somebody in the eye for 60 minutes. Go out there, hitch up your trowel and say, hey, baby, here I am now. Let me see you run through me now. Let me see you show some disrespect for me when I'm nose on your nose. What do you think?
God, I love that audio. That was the pregame speech before Michigan. You lose by 1. But everybody is excited about what they're seeing with this Notre Dame football program. You're the guy that put up play like a champion today at Notre Dame.
What happened? I go to Notre Dame. I go to the library, and I get all the books on Notre Dame history, football. And I see a picture in this old book, play like a champion today. And I said, what happened to that sign? It was right above the entranceway to Notre Dame. I mean, it was a Notre Dame picture. Nobody had ever heard of it. Nobody knew anything about it. So I said, I want that picture. I want that sign printed exactly the way it was then. And I said, I want that. We're going to put it up, and we're going to hit that sign. And every time you do it, you're going to think about the great players that came before you, about the obligation you have representing the University of Notre Dame, about all the sacrifices your family and friends made for you to be here. I want all this to go through your mind to understand when you go through that, you got to play like a champion today, not necessarily for you, but for everybody that enabled you to be here. And that's how it came about. I didn't put it up, but I did the research.
How important at that time was winning a national championship for you personally?
I think dreams are, everybody needs 4 things in your life. If you don't have 4 things in your life, you feel a tremendous void. Something to do. Everybody needs something to do. Everybody needs someone to love. Everybody needs someone to believe. But everybody needs something to hope for. Having something to hope for is critical. Martin Luther King made one of the 10 greatest speeches in the history of mankind where he said, I have a dream. He had a dream. Do you think that speech would have the same effect? And he stood up and said, I have a strategic plan I want to show you. Strategic plans, it's dreams, it's excitement, it's belief.
This great 1988 season, you start the year ranked 13th. Miami slides up to number 1 at some point, and there's a collision course happening here between Notre Dame and Miami. How do you prepare for this game against the Miami Hurricanes?
Well, Miami came from like 14 down in the last couple of minutes to beat Michigan. And we'd beat Michigan. So I called Bo. And Bo, I love Bo Schembechler. We're great friends off the field. And I said, you played both of us. Do we have a chance to beat Miami? He said, you have a chance, but you're going to have to play awfully well. I said, all I want to hear was that we had a chance. And all year we knew that if we were going to make it to the big time, we had to beat Miami, not just because they were number 1 and defending champ. But they had beaten us 58-7 the last game before I became the head coach. They had run fake punt, reverses. They did all these different things.
They ran it up. They embarrassed Notre Dame.
Eric Parsegian's doing the TV, and he said, from these ashes, Notre Dame will rise up again. They had embarrassed us, and that was our obligation to correct that.
This is the game they called Catholics versus convicts.
But that wasn't fair. It was inaccurate because not all our team was Catholic.
The convicts you have no problem with.
I can't control that,
Okay.
but we weren't all Catholic.
There's a great moment that you have in the locker room before your team takes the field, and you're getting your guys psyched up, you're doing your thing. And at the end, you say something to the effect of, you go out there and kick their asses. You save Jimmy Johnson for me.
No.
Like you were going to kick his ass in the parking lot after that.
What happened is we do our pregame warm-up. They do theirs. Miami comes down. They bump our players. They run through our team. A big fight happens.
Before the game.
Before the game. Warm-up in the end zone. And the people getting fights are the third teamers. They aren't going to play, but they go back to the dorm. Yeah, I punched a guy, you know. But now we come in the locker room after the big fight. I'm so embarrassed. Here we are, number 1 at Notre Dame, and we're the host, and we treat guests like that. There is no understanding explanation that I will accept that would cause us to be in that fight. I don't care what they did. We're the host. So now we're in the locker room before the game, and I have this long speech I want to give them. And I said to them, if anybody does anything but show class during this entire game, you will not only not play the rest of this year, you will never play at Notre Dame again. I want you to go out, and I want you to play as hard as you can, but with nothing but class and just the way you conduct yourself. Now, after the game, if they want to fight in the parking lot, that's fine. We'll meet them in the parking lot, and if they do, you save Jimmy Johnson's ass for me. I hadn't planned on it. It wasn't what I wanted to say, but that's how mad I was, and I never said a word about it for 20 years. But that's exactly what happened.
We're going to run the end of the game, the highlight, in 2 parts. Here's the first one with your Notre Dame Fighting Irish leading Miami late in the 4th quarter.
Jimmy Johnson brings the offense. So it has come down to this play. It is 4th down. Aren't they something? Touchdown, Andre Brown. Jimmy will use a timeout. It's 31-30 at 45 seconds.
Now they'll go for 2, I believe.
Touchdown. It's 31-30. So Jimmy Johnson calls timeout, And he has made the decision, as it turns out, to go for 2 and the win. You have an opportunity to talk to your team. I'm dying to know what you said to your defense, leading by 1 point with them going out there to try and win it.
Just everybody do what you're supposed to do. Don't try to play 2 positions. Have faith and trust in your teammate. Just play your position. We'll be fine.
What was that like for you on the sideline watching this unfold?
Hope they did what I asked them to do.
Well, let's see if they did.
45 seconds to play. Notre Dame 31, Miami 30, and going for 2. Incomplete. This place about to explode. We've said it before, and we'll say it again. That's why they play the game. 31-30, Notre Dame over Miami.
I'm taken by your demeanor on the sideline when you win that game against Miami. It's the same demeanor you had at Arkansas when you beat Oklahoma. There's no jumping up and down, Lou Holtz running around like a crazy guy. There, you were very restrained, but I want to ask you what that win against Miami felt like for you and for that team.
Oh, yeah, it was a great win, but your players are going to follow the demeanor you have as the head coach. If you're screaming and hollering and yelling, they'll get the attitude, boy, we're in trouble. Coach is really panicking. And remember this, after the game, beating Miami, that's a big game. But that makes next week's game even bigger. Every time you win a game, the next week's game becomes even bigger.
You're going to take on West Virginia, an undefeated Mountaineers team in the Fiesta Bowl for the national championship. How do you prepare for this game?
The day before the game, we took them to the stadium. One of their gifts was a picture, and everybody takes a picture of their teammates. And then I assigned every senior to be carried off the field by the underclassmen. I had it worked out. You 4 will carry this senior off. You 3 will carry this one off. And we practiced carrying them off after the win.
That's how you prepared for the game the day before? You basically prepared the celebration.
Well, we can't celebrate if we don't win, so don't screw me up. But I would joke with, I'd have the game plan on a vanilla folder and I'd say to them, man, this game plan is so great, the Hall of Fame wants it in. The only way you can keep this on the Hall if you don't execute it. Because I want to tell you, it's brilliant right here. Everybody knows it, so don't foul me up. You just joke with them a lot.
Here it is, the 1989 Fiesta Bowl.
Johnson is the man to watch, the fullback, or Rice on the keeper. Johnson, touchdown. So the score is 9-0.
Well, no pressing here.
On 3rd and long, Rice to Ismail for a touchdown.
Lou Holtz, such a master when it comes to utilizing his players.
And there it is, the final seconds tick away, and Notre Dame will duly celebrate a national championship. No doubt the Irish are number 1.
What did it feel like for you to win this national championship?
It's just something that they can't take away from you. It's an accomplishment. I was happy for the players. I'd been part of one at Ohio State. And now to win this, you come so close, and you got to be so lucky in so many respects. You know, my wife and I made our decision. We're going to be buried at Notre Dame. Our burial plots are at Notre Dame. And it's on campus, and they're beautiful. They overlook the golf course, which I love, and the Golden Dome. And it's a better view if you're sitting up. But we have it. And the reason, the alums bury me every Saturday, so right. But here's the thing. 3 of our 4 children graduated from Notre Dame. The one place they will always go back to is Notre Dame. They won't always go somewhere. So that's why we're going to be buried at Notre Dame.
We have this quote on the wall. life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond to it.
I believe that's true. You can't control the things that happen all the time. You can control how you react to it. The other thing I said is what you're capable of doing is determined by the amount of talent God gave you. Maybe he gave me the ability to run the 109.9. So that's my talent. But what I do is determined by my motivation. I may be capable of running 9.9, but I'm not even going to run it unless I'm motivated to do so. And then how well you do something determined by your attitude. Talent deserves what you can do, motivation what you do, but attitude is how well you do something. You have the right attitude, you're going to run it 9.9. You might be motivated to run it, but your attitude, you're going to run in 10.4. That's just right. It's just we complicate life. And when I'm saying I'm not very book smart, I'm not being humble or anything else. I'm being accurate, but I just think I try to learn from people as I see and use common sense on it.
At the end of your time at Notre Dame, take us through the pressure that you were feeling. Yeah. Win once, and then you're going to find out how hard it is to coach at Notre Dame. So you win in the 88 season, and now you're always measured against your own standard. Yeah. And tell us what it was like at the end of that stretch.
This might be the most important thing I'm going to say on this show all day. And that is that once we signed the NBC contract, there was a backlash with the media towards Notre Dame.
Now, the NBC contract meaning that Notre Dame was on every Saturday.
Notre Dame had their own network. It would be exposed, and there was a backlash.
Which is a huge advantage to Notre Dame, theoretically.
But it also, we had changed athletic directors. We had an athletic, Dick Rosenthal. Love him like a brother. He was great. We had more fun together, no secrets. He retires, they bring in another AD, and it just was difficult to communicate with him. Might have been my fault, I don't know. But in any event, I decide to leave Notre Dame. Now, there's a rule of life, ladies and gentlemen. You're either growing or you're dying. The tree's either growing or it's dying, so's grass, so's a marriage, and so's a person. It doesn't have a thing to do with age, it has everything to do with you trying to accomplish something. Once you win a national championship, everybody has you on a pedestal. And then the only story is how you're not perfect. No matter what it is, we finished second in the country. Everybody called me an idiot. That idiot finished second. Guy finishes last in medical school, they call him doctor. That doesn't seem fair, but that's life. So it changes because you have a sense of accomplishment, but the expectations at Notre Dame is always so difficult. When I went there, they said, Coach, all we want to do is be competitive. The first year we lose 5 games by a total of 14 points. I think that's competitive. The alum said, no, you don't understand. Competitiveness means to win, not come close. Second year we win. Go to the Cotton Bowl. They said, we said win, we meant win them all. Third year we win them all. They said we meant by a big score. So you're never going to satisfy them. But you get on top and you say, this is pretty good. 9 straight years. We go to January 1 Bowl, sugar, cotton, orange, or Fiesta. Nobody's done it before. 10 straight years, we go into November with a chance to win the national championship. And you get on top and you say, that's pretty good. Let's maintain it. In the real life, you're growing or dying. I thought I was tired of coaching. I wasn't. I was tired of maintaining. After I left Notre Dame, I never thought I'd coach again. Where'd you go from Notre Dame? According to my mother, go directly to heaven. You sit by the Pope. You don't coach anymore. Then you go live in a town where the average age is deceased. And what you find out, you weren't tired of coaching. You're tired of maintaining. And that's a lesson I learned.
You like the build, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Which is what you ended up doing coming back at South Carolina.
South Carolina might have been the more difficult situation I've ever inherited.
We're talking about 1999, and that program was down and out.
The program was down. We had 3 offensive linemen on scholarship, 1 quarterback, and we lost him the second game for the entire year. But Now, we're 0-11 my first year. We never had a chance. We played pretty good defense. We didn't have a chance. And everybody's criticizing he's too old. The game passed him by. You can't win at South Carolina. I remember I'm in an airport after that year, and a guy come up and said, anybody tell you look like Lou Holtz? I said, happens all the time. He said, really makes you mad, doesn't it? You know, you're on the bottom. You got two choices. You stay down or you get up. You can succeed when no one believes in you. No chance you don't believe in yourself. I don't care what anybody else says. We can succeed when we believe in ourselves. I don't care who else believes. But we're bound and determined. And 12 months later, we have the second greatest turnaround in the history of NCAA football. We beat Ohio State on January 1, and following year, we finished 11th in the country, beat Ohio State again on January 1.
But do you have any regrets as you look back?
We make a lot of mistakes. You learn from them. You benefit from them. But how lucky I am to be married to the person I am, to have the children we have, to be in the country that we have, to have the opportunities. And I don't think you live your life of regrets. You just try to learn and benefit from it and be thankful every day. You can either be happy or you can be sad. It's life matter choices. You choose to act or procrastinate, believe or doubt, pray or curse, help or heal, succeed or fail, be happy or sad. That's your choice. I choose to be happy.
Last question I asked before this is, what's next for you?
I don't know. I'm still riding in the front of the hearse. As long as I'm doing that, I think we're okay. You know, I want to be active. I want to be active. I want to have a reason to get up each and every morning and to go do things.
All right, fun questions. Here we go. It's the way we wrap up. Would you rather have your flight delayed 16 hours or lose your luggage?
Oh, I'd rather lose my luggage because I don't ever check it.
You travel late?
That's like, guy goes up and said, I want this suitcase to go to New York, that one to Los Angeles, this one to Chicago. She said, we can't do that. He said, you did it the last time I flew your airline. So,
Would you rather have one life that lasts 1,000 years or 10 lives that are 100 years each?
Oh, I'd rather have 10, 100 years, I would think. I just, as long as I end up with my wife and my family and in this country. To me, I think being in this country is the most important thing because of the opportunities you have.
Here's the last question I'm asking you, I swear to God, on my children. It's a simple question. What makes a great coach?
Wins.
For the sake of my daughters, I cannot ask a follow-up. I'm sorry. I hope that you've enjoyed this as much as I have. This is a brilliant man who grew up in East Liverpool, Ohio, is in the Hall of Fame, and is a molder of young men, and thank God that, that he was just that. You've made everybody proud. I know that knew you back in the day, and you are making a difference. And those choices that you make, like being happy, I think you've spread that around anybody you've been around. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Lou Holtz.
Thank you. Thank you. You did a great job. Thank you.